stamp new SD card detected.
So for transparency, Zoom did send me all of the Essential series for review with one request that I review them all separately, which I'm going to do this week. 3 videos in 3 days, which means this might be a long week. Now, I've been a fan of the H series of recorders from Zoom for a long time. This Zoom H5 was a constant in my bag for everything I did, and I've made my money back on this 1,000 times over. Not to mention my love for the newer H8, which is mind-blowing for what it can do. We recorded a whole bloody drum set with it, and if y'all actually watched that video, we might have actually highlighted that. These things for me are probably some of the best gear on the market at this moment for run-and-gun handheld audio capture at a decent price. So when I saw that Zoom was coming out with a whole new set of H series and they were calling them Essentials in 2024, woo, I got super excited. Kind of like Christmas morning excited. So I called them and I requested them. And I already know what this video is called, so before we get into all the blame and shame, I really do need to highlight what Zoom got right here. And honestly, let's start with the 32-bit float. Yes, please. Handheld audio capture is the perfect situation for 32-bit float. There's nothing more unpredictable than being out and about with a recorder like this. Maybe you're doing a streeter and horns keep blowing, or the person decides to eat the microphone while they talk. There's nothing worse than getting back and realizing some of your audio is trashed because it's clipped all to hell, and it's always the best audio as well. That is no longer an issue with 32-bit float. Also, the little things that Zoom does so well, like the ability to use this as a USB mic, is a nice touch. Just plug it in, select USB mic, and off you go. That's how I'm recording right now. There's also pre-record options in there where it's always gathering audio and it will pre-record a bit before you hit that record button. So if you're slow on the draw, this might save your butt. Quiet operation controls is a really nice feature and a welcome upgrade to the wildly loud clicking of the past H series gear. Another really cool feature I like on this, hey, did you screw up and you have wildly peaking audio? And maybe you don't have a DAW that lets you work with 32-bit float? Don't worry about it. Just normalize on the unit and voila, your audio comes out super workable. And of course, probably the most important feature on this thing is the accessibility for the visually impaired. You have the option for audible descriptions of the menu as well as different cue sounds for different things.
Repeat setting. USB, SD card, overdub, output, system.
It's available in several different languages, and honestly, this should be a standard feature across the board for every piece of handheld gear like this, from every company. I'm not kidding. That accessibility is awesome, and I love to see it. And well, that's about it. But before we take out our mean words, let's just cover some of the usual basics. Now, the body on this thing is all Zoom plastic, and if that shocks you, you haven't been paying attention for the past few years. I don't see it as either a positive or a negative, it's just a fact that exists. I mean, it is a $99 handheld recorder with 32-bit float. You get what you get. Beyond that, it feels pretty good in the hand and the buttons are fine, and frankly, if you've used a Zoom handheld before, nothing here is going to take you by surprise. And yes, the micro SD will take cards of up to 1 terabyte, which that's a lot of audio. Okay, so with that out of the way, let's take out the mean words. Now, we all know what the H in this stands for, right? Handheld. So, let's do just a little handheld test. Now for a slight handheld test with the Zoom H1. Changing hands on this thing is a no-go if you're mid-audio. Also, I do have to admit, the plosives on this thing are pretty bad. So make sure if you're getting audio, you're further away. Now, what I want to know is why do you go through all the trouble to create this thing with silent button operation when even the slightest movement of your hand sounds like an earthquake? And I don't know what I was expecting, but I don't think it was that. Honestly, as a handheld unit, this is frankly unusable. Unless this is mounted, don't bother. Okay then. All right, let's just say we're going to mount it. Let's continue. You see, the thing about 32-bit float is it protects you from distorting when your audio peaks, right? Well, it's also supposed to allow you to gain up quiet sources with no added noise. Perfect. Let's get out some ASMR. This is exactly what it should sound like when you gain up So let's see how this sounds. 1 foot away, the Zoom H1 Essentials. And that is, I am assuming, the NEG 120 EIN popping up. Now, that spec isn't on the sheet for this thing, but it's on the other 2 units here, so look forward to that in the upcoming videos. Hey guys, so I'm working on the H4 video. I'm in the process of editing it, and I realized something. I mentioned just earlier that this thing does not have any EIN listed on the specs page, so I just assumed that it was the same EIN, NEG 120, as the other 2. This test kind of shows it's not. It's pretty bad. And the test with the H4, you can actually tell there is quite a bit of a difference. So just wanted to give you a heads up. This is not NEG 120 EIN on this unit. You'll see that in tomorrow's video with the H4. 32-bit float or not, an EIN of NEG 120 or whatever this is unacceptable in 2024. But then I can hear you asking, Aiden, the Zoom H5 has an EIN of NEG 120 and you love that thing. What's with that? But you're right. That is one of the things that was always a welcome trade-off with gear like this. Gear that was released in 2014, 10 years ago. And even then, a self-noise of NEG 120 was a tough ask. But again, there was so much in this and it gave such a high level of freedom at the time that most were willing to overlook it. You see, I can get past a lot. The lack of a gain knob? I know that a lot of people aren't going to like that, but you know what? I kind of get it. This is a no-fail option for someone that wants nothing to do with learning how to set their gain. In a lot of ways, this series could have been a brilliant home run. If there was any way of even the slightest upgrade in preamps, and perhaps just a little bit more filler in the body so it wasn't an echo chamber, this would have been awesome. Because as this is now, well, it makes it impossible to recommend this at all. And in a sentiment that I really hope isn't something that is echoed throughout this week of videos, what worries me, and probably what should worry Zoom, is that there's a ton of amazing stuff in here. You can see a bunch of great ideas in this series. I really hope that they don't get blown out of the water by a competitor, because while being cheap is awesome, it isn't everything. The product still has to work as intended in the era it's released in. And that means for this, as a handheld device, well, it doesn't fly. And this would have been a great product last decade. Anyways, hey, tomorrow, H4 Essentials. Who knows? As of writing this and recording this video, I've yet to touch the unit. So let's hope for a turnaround. Cheers, guys, and I'll see you in the next video tomorrow.